Hey everybody, this is Nico, and I'm out having my little peaceful, quiet time. And every day I get up and kind of contemplate life and the things that we encounter, the things that, maybe cause us pain, the things that help us grow. Just everything in life can be looked at as a valuable lesson. So this morning I was contemplating on reincarnation. I was watching some YouTube videos, and one of the suggested videos was reincarnation. And it gave a story about a young boy at the age of 4 who kept complaining to his parents that he had throat problems, that his throat hurt. And as the video progressed, the little boy at age 4 eventually came to his mother and told her, "I was a soldier in the war and I was killed because I got shot in my throat." So of course the mother didn't know what to do with that information, because that's not a topic that we frequent often. But as time went on, the little boy began to get a growth in his throat. So he was taken to the hospital, his tonsils were taken out, and that wasn't the cause. But once he began to actually be convinced that that is what truly happened to him in another life, the throat mass just went away. The doctors couldn't explain it. But what happened is that once he began to deal with the emotion and the trauma behind what happened in that past lifetime, he became healed. And so for a long time, for many, many years, I didn't believe in reincarnation. I thought that once we died, we went to heaven or hell, and that was the end of it. But life has a way of teaching you beautiful life lessons to help you grow. So I began to look at my own life the more I began to study videos like this, and remember that I've had encounters as a child too, and most often children do. But they are excused away, and eventually we forget and we no longer remember those things that are very close to us when we first enter in this earth realm, this lifetime. So I'm going to share with you some of my experiences. I never really shared them before openly, other than with the people that are close to me. So the first thing I can remember that relates to this subject is I was a little girl. I was probably around the age of 4 or 5 as well. And I had a dream that I was on a boat with other children, and we were going to this castle or this palace. And thinking back on the scenery, it was, now I understand, a very etheric place. The colors were beautiful and vibrant, and the castle or palace almost was see-through. But it was what took place in the castle that I can now relate back to a memory or an experience. Once everybody got to the council or to the castle, we were led in different rooms for housing, and we were actually, once we got settled, we began to go around and pick masks to wear, like a dress rehearsal. So one of the young children that I was observing, she picked out a mask that was kind of clear, but it indeed was a human face. And that dream kind of took me back to things that could happen when you're transitioning out of this lifetime and preparing to come back somewhere or as somebody else. So that was my first encounter. So the older I got, I began to be very, very, very interested in spiritual things. So I ran into a magnificent book by Dolores Cannon. Actually, it's a book series called Convoluted Universe. And in this book, if you have not read it, actually it's books, it talks about her being a therapist, and she actually began to regress people to help them deal with smoking and things of that nature. But one time she regressed somebody so far, and they were so deep in their subconscious mind, that they actually began to recall different time periods and different lives that they've had. And since the sessions were recorded, that person can go back and kind of review. And so what I've learned is that many times we carry an imprint into this lifetime of things that have happened in our previous lifetimes. So beginning to read these books and being fascinated by it, A relative of mine actually got the opportunity to go study under Dolores Cannon and get certified to do past life regressions. So in the session, we're taught to kind of ask for past lives that are relevant to this current life to kind of come forward to show us kind of what things are hindering us and where we could possibly be going. And I'll just tell you about one. But this particular one, I was a priestess and I was in the hall where other priests and priestesses met. And at that time frame, what was happening in the earth then was that we were approaching a very, very cataclysmic event. And I knew from being a very spiritual person that the cataclysm was approaching, but I was torn within to go and warn the people. So eventually I left the hall where the priests and priestesses were and went to go warn the people. And before I got there, the cataclysm began to happen. And as the buildings were breaking down and everything, I was impaled by a metal rod, and it was so long I couldn't get myself off of it. So I died right there. And of course I didn't look like me, but indeed it was me. So when I awoke from that session, the person that was doing the session for me told me that oftentimes when a person dies tragically, it leaves an imprint, and that person will usually come into this lifetime with a birthmark where the traumatic event happened. And indeed, I pulled up my shirt in the back and I said, look, I have maybe a 2-inch scar on my back, exactly where I saw myself impaled in the dream. And so that began my journey to search out, what is this? Is it true? And, where did this all come from? And when did we lose sight, so to speak, of this information? And so I went back to what used to be my primary source, the scripture. And in Mark chapter 8, starting at verse 27, Jesus asked the disciples, who do they say that I am? And it amazed me with this newfound understanding, the answer. And I had read the scripture before, but it never really dawned on me. The answers that the disciple gave, they said, some say you're John the Baptist. Some say you're Elias. Some say you're one of the prophets. And then that's when Jesus asked, who do you say that I am? And upon further research, I really realized that it was common knowledge back in the first century church and in that time and in that region, because it didn't actually get taken out of the doctrine until 325 AD at the Conference of Nicaea. When they originally gave the creed, reincarnation was in there, and when they changed the creed to the Apostles' Creed, that portion was taken out. So if you go on YouTube and study, there is many cases of people who came back into this lifetime remembering who they are. In fact, a person that's close to me, one of my nieces, when she was about 2 years old, she told us, I didn't even want to come here. This place is too small. And so that was another little bit of information that kind of helped me become very interested and want to understand the process or the ideology of reincarnation. And so I hope this was helpful. This is Nico, and I hope that what I share helps you tap into your divine unlimited potential.